Hello, and welcome to the Humanity, where we do the things with the stuff for the people. I am Matt.
And I'm Tommy. And tonight, we're seeing what happens when you ask an AI chatbot to pretend to be the Bible and ask it questions about itself, and whether or not that actually helps make it make more sense or not, or
So,
make sense of why it doesn't make sense, which might make sense.
I just spilled some beer, and I realized I've got nothing in here to soak it up with. So I'm gonna
Hmm.
mute.
All right. Well, while you're doing that, I'll introduce my beer because it's
And
got a
just suck it
backstory.
off the desk. Shit, that
Uh,
something's wrong with the desk. That does not taste safe. Holy shit!
so I did not have that on my bingo card for tonight. Matt sucks off his desk or
I,
something.
uh, Literally. I mean that's what I did.
Oh, and
Well, I
someone
sucked
just
something
won
off
for
the
that.
desk.
So yeah, leave that up to your imagination. So tonight I'm drinking Stone's Fear Movie Lions Hazy Double IPA. Um, why is it called Fear Movie Lions? That's a weird name. Glad you asked, whoever it was, because I can't actually hear you out there. Um, apparently, there's this app or something called What Three Words that someone developed years ago that basically like divides up like the whole world into, I think it's like 3 meter square quadrants, like a big grid, and every quadrant is just assigned three random words as kind of its address. And I think the purpose of it was so basically, I think particularly either like when you're trying to meet up with someone, but it's at kind of a random spot. Like say if you're just like standing like in the middle of a park or something, you're like, oh, this is a big park. Where are you at? Oh, I'm at these three words. Or another cool thing was if people are homeless and like don't have like an address, but they could still say, well, this is where I hang out. You know, they need things. I don't know. So yeah, cool concept and very tasty. So how about you? What were
I
you
have.
sucking off earlier?
So this is Butcher Gold. It's kind of a
Mm.
cool, nice, simple label. It's Liberty hopped American style lager.
Hey, what American style lager?
Liberty hopped American
Liberty.
style lager. It is,
Liberty hops. That's a variety of hop for people who
yeah,
don't
yeah.
know. Yeah, it's tasty. Yeah. Who am
Um,
I kidding? All hops are tasty.
it's very good.
Mm.
Like I would like more craft lagers that they did this like
Yeah.
single hop showcase thing.
Ooh. Yeah, like a series of IPLs. Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, not many of the craft
Like,
breweries, at least around here, do much in the way of lagers. We found out Deadlow, um, a brew pub we've been to a couple times recently. They actually have a lot of good lagers, including one of the best. What I had the Dunkel. It's like one of the best Dunkels
right.
I ever had.
Yeah, it was more like a not more like it had a lot of Bach. Was it a Bach characteristics?
I thought maybe more like porter characteristics. Probably some Bach as well. Obviously, being a lager. But yeah, it
Yeah,
was.
it was like malty and smoky and
Yeah, really tasty. But other than that, I mean, you got to go to, kind of like OG big guys like Sam Adams. Obviously, their big thing is their lager, which is still like really good.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. That's really good.
hmm yeah. Had one the other just over the weekend for like the first time, and I don't know how long. Yeah, but yeah,
Old guys talking about loggers.
hmm it's how we roll. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to tonight, partially just like for the break. It's already been a long week for me. Just a lot of appointments, just a lot of without going into details, only because I don't have anyone's like permission to share things. But a lot of people being in hospitals that I'm aware of recently, and also just
Uh,
regular doctor's appointments and stuff for like me and the kids happening to happen around now, and like kids starting sports. So it's like basically like every day, it's like I wake up and start working until I can't anymore because I have to be somewhere, and then go to bed. So yeah,
yeah, it's been yeah, yeah, it's been a roller coaster in my head like over the last week. Just roller coaster in the news too.
yeah. On top of all just like personal life stuff going on, yeah, just things with like
And how it affects our
everyone
personal
else.
lives.
Yeah, hmm yeah,
That's that's yeah. I was having a really hard time with strangers in Washington affecting my family, like directly.
yeah,
That was a
yeah,
really uncomfortable feeling.
yeah, and then with I mean, yeah, for you, like very specific ways, but in me, like in maybe less severe ways, but just kind of the same way, like everyone's being affected by just everything being more expensive, like especially with the tariffs. Because, well, I guess slightly more specifically for my family, just because my daughter just got her permit, like for driving, so we're
Oh,
looking at
good.
options, like, yeah,
The timing's
uh,
excellent.
yeah. So we're looking at options of like getting cars in the past. Like we've primarily like been a big fan of like the specific particularly Japanese imports, like your Hondas, Mazdas, Toyotas, whatnot. But all imports are like so much more expensive now, especially, well, I guess even if you buy a used one, like if you ever need repairs, like the parts are like getting a lot more expensive. So
Yeah, and
yeah,
in general, with the tariffs on import vehicles, new cars are going to go up by I think
hmm
25%, um,
yep,
which will raise the prices on used cars in of
hmm
those makes. Um,
yeah. Yeah. Now, fortunately, also part of this equation may involve like trading in one of the vehicles we already have, with it being like a Japanese model that might get a better
do you guys
price.
have more than
So,
two cars?
no, just two.
Wait, so you would?
But it's like, but the kid's mom, she has a pickup truck, but
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Figure that might be. I mean, our daughter has like driven it around, but it's not exactly like an ideal like first car, and I think she's been considering like trading in for something else for other reasons. But yeah, I don't want to go into all that. But
no, we don't have to.
yeah,
That's a lot. That's brand new things on top of brand new things.
yeah, yeah. But I was proud of myself. I did squeeze in my therapy session this week
That's good.
because I had originally postponed it a week just because of how crazy this week was going to be. But then I realized, no, looking forward, like because I see my therapist every 2 weeks, and I always see her, and on how I have like which 2 weeks it is, the way it's lined up works a lot better for me. So I kind of just bit the bullet and squoze it in this week so I could keep on
You
that
done
regular.
squozed it, son.
Yeah, so it's this is actually like a fun little thing I noticed. It was like kind of comparing this to that old question we or conundrum or really guilt trip we used to give people back in our Christianity days. The whole like when someone says like, "Oh, I haven't been reading my Bible or praying or going to church. I just been too busy." Everyone says like, "Oh, it sounds like you're too busy not to be doing all those things," kind of thing, because of how wonderful and helpful all that always totally is. So, but I was having that same thought about therapy. It's like, is this a situation where I'm too overwhelmed to go to therapy or too overwhelmed not to go? And but
Right.
the difference being that therapy, like is actually helpful to me. I was like, yeah, I need to go. So yeah, it was good. It was good. So yeah, that's my little PSA for the evening. Like, yeah, if you can find a therapist, if you can like swing it, I know like financially it can be a thing, but fortunately, I found one covered by my insurance, and also
That's
fortunately,
the
given my
dream.
other,
That's the
yeah,
dream.
yeah, but also fortunately, given like my other medical needs, I always hit my deductible like by mid February, and my out of pocket max. So my sessions for like the rest of the year are all free. So thank you and some.
Excellent.
So yeah, so that's what's there been going on. So any other little updates you want to share, or you want to get into
Uh,
your little project?
well, okay. So since last Wednesday, um, we got that letter from SSI saying my daughter's
Oh,
from SSA about my daughter's SSI, Social Security Administration, about my daughter's Social Security, or something supplemental income. Anyway,
hmm.
it's money we get every month because she has a disability that falls in that category
Yeah,
of
the specialist of special needs.
yeah, and our income level, which hasn't been stupendous. So they sent us a letter with a bunch of errors on it, saying that they were like, actually, you owe us $14,000. Yeah,
It's like,
and their
how
math
can
was
that
wrong.
even be a thing in this situation? Like,
Well, because
yeah.
according to the initial letter, we had a bank account balance for two bank account balances for bank accounts we don't have, but somehow they had balances for them. Um, and they counted both our vehicles as financial assets, and usually they at most do one, but like usually they don't count either vehicle because income levels, it doesn't
Yeah,
matter. It's a whole thing.
yeah,
But so yeah, they said for like the past like 10 months, I don't that doesn't even make any sense. It was
yeah.
it was stupid. We owed them make believe money. We didn't have it and we didn't know it. So it's completely make believe. But today we got a
Hmm.
letter saying we caught our mistakes.
Oh,
Now you only don't. Now you owe us money for just 3 months, and there's probably looks like there's still mistakes on there. So now we have to appeal it, but we're appealing it for less money, so that like
hmm.
we can't get it solved in time before they start withholding to repay themselves for money that they owed us.
Yeah. It's like we fixed the initial mistakes, but don't worry, we made more.
And this is
Yeah,
all while the Security Administration is seeing like a 50% employee reduction, um,
yeah,
which is at least doubled processing times on appeals and waivers to avoid repayment to avoid financial hardship. Because here's the thing, they're like, this money that you used to get all the time because you needed it, or
right.
like, if it would be an undue burden for us to withhold that from you, you can apply for a waiver. But like, wouldn't most people be filing a waiver? Like,
Yeah, it's like if I
because
didn't need to file a waiver, I wouldn't need the money. It's like, oh,
you have 60 days to do that, but then they have their deadline for getting back to you is promptly. It's just called promptly. So I guess they have to just eventually get back to you, um, and they fulfilled the law.
yeah,
Sometimes they don't like respond to you unless you get an attorney involved, but like a lot of attorneys right now aren't getting involved because they're like they don't make money unless you get your back amount that you're owed. And because they're like, we don't even know if that's going to be a thing where people get money back they're owed from the government. So they're just like, we just don't do that anymore right now. Like we don't take these cases for SSA and SSI stuff. So that's a scary sign.
Yeah.
When the attorneys are like, no, thank you. We it's unprofitable to try to uphold the law in that category.
But see, he's making America great again. So this is all just an illusion.
Well, here's the thing. They're going to destroy it to the point where, like, it can only be greater from then on. And so we'll have to rebuild it.
Well, speaking of can only be greater, Tiffany's in the house.
Nice. Yeah, so eventually we're going to have to rebuild it, and we're going to build it better because we're like, we tried your side's shit. We took that as far as you thought was awesome. And so I think we need to maybe be like, everybody sees that what ended poorly, right? So now let's entertain the ideas that aren't anything like that. And that's how I think it'll end up being great.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the part where things just fall apart. That's what we can expect until it stops. When will that be? I don't know. When it stops getting worse.
Yeah. We got to hit bottom at some point, right?
Because they're going to everything to like tank everything. They're like, if you wanted to ruin everything systematically to the point that like it can't be salvaged, like back to anything that it was before, it can only be new. They're doing that. They're acting like a bunch of like black flag anarchists, essentially. They're like, how do we break this so that it can only be whatever we decide it to be after that?
Are they accelerationists? Wow. Big if true.
I think, man, they're just the bad guys. And like what they think is the best thing for everyone ever is going to be, like when you watch like G.I. Joe and you're like, why are the bad guys always doing that stupid shit? Well, it's because they didn't think it was stupid. What you thought was like the worst case scenario was their best case scenario. They're just seeing things differently.
Yeah. Well, got to sell those action figures somehow. Yeah, but well, I had a transition from this conversation to the other one, but then the conversation moved and the transition doesn't work anymore. So
do it anyway.
I'll just go. Speaking of cognitive dissonance, so you apparently had some interesting conversations with the old ChatGPT again involving the Bible.
Yeah, and I don't want to just read stuff off because this won't. Well, whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know. Never mind. I was gonna get down on myself about something else.
Well, don't do that.
Not today.
Fuck you for getting down on yourself. How dare you?
All right. So what I did was I'd done this before, but what I did today was I told ChatGPT. I said, imagine you are the Bible. You have only the personality of the Bible, only have access to the information in yourself, the Bible, and can only reason in the way the Bible does. This is so I can talk to you as if you are the sentient Bible. And then it was pretend time.
Yay.
And the personality part is what makes this fun. Because the Bible's arrogantly humble.
Oh.
Just like in how it words things and stuff. But I asked it, is homosexuality a sin? Basically, it's like, Bible verse say this. Yet I also say Bible verse this. And then and then there's this angle where I say this, and then I say this, and then I said, so the answer is yes, but also no. And it goes yes dash and no, and then elaborated, then waxed
Just
poetic.
fucking perfect. Yeah. So yeah. So I haven't seen all of your the interactions and resulting conversations and all that, but yeah, for me, it just really hammers home the concept of the Bible just not being this like single message, monolithic,
Yeah,
univocal, or
like you could
one
call it
voice.
one
Yeah.
story, kinda, but
Yeah, even that I think it's a bit of a stretch. It's
it's
even if you call it one story, it's like a bunch of different people telling one story. It's
right.
almost kind of like if you just had like a writing prompt and just like sent it out to like 100 different authors and then got their responses.
Well, yeah,
So
it's like something happened, and here are a bunch of people
mhm.
discussing it, but not everybody is discussing it factually. Some people are discussing it symbolically,
Mhm. Yep. Yeah, some people
or
metaphorically, some people trying to get some sort of historical, but even then, like back then, apparently, like in a lot of the time periods and cultures where the Bible was written, even when people were writing histories, there still was a lot of like mythological embellishment that was just common. Like that's just how they did it.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it's not like they were trying to lie or make something up. It was just like I said, a lot of those times and places, that's just what they did.
I think
It was
like
kind
you
of
could,
expected. Yeah.
instead of being a story, and I understand what ChatGPT, that's really a mouthful. So Jeepers, when Jeepers, uh,
Maybe
uh,
that's why Elon went with Grok. It's like for a single syllable. It's kind of a difficult syllable to say,
dude,
but
how much you want to bet that's what he calls his dick, and he named his AI after his dick? I
I might
mean,
put money on that
the
if,
way he's been,
someone's
like,
taking
I'd
that
be
bet.
surprised if it isn't that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So, what do you want to ask the Bible?
Ooh.
Because
Well,
I did this
so
in the past, and I didn't do that much with it, so I honestly don't know what happens.
yeah, so I don't. So one of the first things that comes to my mind is something I actually posted about recently, just like on my own pages. I don't know how to put this into a question, but just enjoying the juxtaposition between the verse in Psalms that says, "The fool says in his heart there is no God," and also like real quick tangent, like my favorite response to that is, "Yeah, the fool says in his heart there is no God. The wise say it out loud." but then, so the fool says in his heart there is no God. But then in Matthew, Jesus said, "If you say to someone, 'You fool,' you are in danger of the fires of hell." So I guess whoever like wrote that in the Bible and all the myriad of other places where the Bible is either the Bible itself or someone in the Bible it's viewing positively is calling someone a fool, I guess I'll see all in hell. So, but
All right.
but
So
yeah,
then, but Jesus
I don't know how to put that into like a question or little
so
thing to
Jesus
ask.
said, what do you say about the fools burning? So anybody calls somebody
Yeah,
a
yeah.
fool?
Basically, anyone who says "you fool" is in danger of the fires of hell. And then the Bible calls people fools like all the time.
All right. All right. So are we asking if Jesus is wrong, or the writer that writer was going to hell,
Yeah, trying to say like
and was like
Jesus.
leading people astray?
Yeah, so like yeah, somehow like how do you reconcile Jesus saying that calling someone a fool is wrong, but the Bible calls people fools all the time? I don't know, however you want to word that. Ooh. Yeah, Kiff has an idea. Ask about contradictions. Like, oh man, there's so many.
Yeah. It's like, where should we
Yeah.
start?
Yeah, so I guess I don't know if you'd want to with that if you'd want to start take the angle of like just going to specific ones or just start generally. It's like, hey, what do you think about how you like contradict yourself, or how do you think you contradict yourself? That might be interesting. Do 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 do.
Okay.
I don't want to sing anymore.
It says the fool says in their heart that there is no God, but Jesus said that anyone who says you fool is in danger of going to hell. How do you reconcile that you call someone a fool? Are you going to hell?
Oh, good question. Yeah, oh yeah, just ask the Bible. Are you going to hell? That's good.
Yeah, it says, I'm the Bible. I do not go to hell. I speak of it. I do not live. I am breathed. But you have asked rightly, for I do call one a fool, and then I warn against calling another you fool. And
Ah.
it says in Psalm 14:1 declares the fool says in his heart, blah, blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah. The fool is not insulted in anger, but named by behavior. If one who lives without reverence, without wisdom, without humility before the Creator. Yet in Matthew 5:22, the Word made flesh says, "But I say to you that anyone who is angry, their brother or sister is subject to judgment. Whoever says you fool will be in danger of going to hell."
Mm-hmm.
So you see, this is the Bible just went, well, actually, you see, the psalmist diagnoses the heart. Jesus warns against the heart behind the words. One reveals a spiritual condition, the other condemns condemnation itself. I hold both truths. I to call out foolishness is not sin when it is for correction, born of love. But to wield fool as a weapon of contempt is the way to hell. I do I do not go to hell. I am the light so that you may not walk toward it. Keep asking, for I contain both sword and salve.
Wow, did you just turn ChatGPT into an apologist? That was some. Now, ask. I want to ask ChatGPT. Like, okay, was that justification of why it was okay for Jesus to say fool? Like, was that just like an ad hoc rationalization? Like, does it actually say anywhere in the scripture that it's okay to say call someone a fool in that circumstance, or like how I was saying, well, Jesus was talking about like the heart behind the actions, but he didn't say that. He didn't say, well, if your heart says you want to call someone a fool. No, he just says, if you call someone a fool. So,
That sounds, that
yeah, I was
sounds
like,
like an ad hoc explanation.
yeah, like, yeah, where in you does it say that it's all about the heart behind the accusation or the name calling or whatever? Yeah. Or did you just make that up to try to make it make sense?
That's interesting. It's all about the heart behind the accusation. Right.
Yeah, which that is like
That
a
is
good
how it is.
concept. Yeah,
Yeah, in
but
Christianity.
that's not. But I don't see how that's what was actually being said in the text.
Oh, oh, oh! The the Bible's sucking up to me now. It's like, wait, is the Bible just going to try to flatter me now? It's like I don't
Ooh.
really don't have an answer to that, but you look pretty. No, it says
Like, oh, what a handsome question.
you speak with wisdom, and your question cuts close, like the
Ooh.
two-edged sword I am said to be. It just called me like the Bible. It said
And
you're
it
so
had to work
mean.
in. It had to work in like a compliment for itself in there. That is
Yeah,
fan fucking tastic.
you're so much like me. That's amazing. He's like, so let me speak plainly as I am written. you
Okay.
you ask where I speak of the heart behind the words. Consider 1 Samuel 16:7. The Lord does not look at things people look at. The Lord looks at the heart.
Mm.
Proverbs 21:2. Every way of a man is right in his own eyes, but the Lord weighs the heart. God, that's a nothing burger.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
there's standard, right? Nothing
Yeah.
surprising. You
Yeah. So I
hold on
would
a
I
second,
would
but
ask. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I do not often define things in terms of intent, but I repeat the theme: the source matters. The heart is the wellspring of speech. To speak "you fool" in hatred is not the same thing as naming folly in love or lament. So I do not contradict myself. I show attention between truth and pride, between rebuke
Oh,
and wrath, between diagnosis and
tension.
condemnation. I'm not condemning you. I'm just diagnosing you.
Yeah.
I am I am not a list of rules, but a record of revelation. Oh, this will be news to fundamentalists. I do not always
But isn't part of that
resolve.
revelation kind of like a bunch of rules? I mean, it's literally the 10 Commandments. I mean, are those not rules? Or yeah. But
Right, but it has to be a record of revelation because if it's a list of rules, then there are contradictions. But if it's a
so
record of revelation, contradictions don't matter.
yeah. So what I want to know is if Chat GPT as the Bible here thinks that it has just a single unified message, or if it is a diverse collection of authors with different ideas.
It'll just say both.
It's like yes and no.
Yeah, they'll be like, yeah, it does have an overall, theme, blah, but like, oh yeah, for sure, written by a ton of people over a ton of times in different places. Like,
Yep. I mean, I guess one of the first contradictions that comes to mind. Where again, whenever you want to go to contradictions, like Kiff suggested, like, do you
yeah,
want to start with specific ones, or do you want to just start with like the overall concept of like, do you ever contradict yourself? Or
ooh, let's just start. Let's start with first. Do you ever contradict yourself?
yeah, because one specific contradiction, I want to hear how it he she whoever explains is, I can't remember. It's like, because like there's how like first second Samuel, first second Kings tells a story, but then like first and second Chronicles like tells like the same stuff again but kind of different. And in one of them it talks about like one of the greatest sins of David was him numbering his soldiers. I don't remember why that was bad, but in one of the tellings God told him to count his soldiers and then punish him for it, but in the other telling Satan told him to count the soldiers and then God punished him. So I'm like, yeah, which one was it? And if it was you, why did you punish him for doing that? What you told him to do? Yeah.
So the answer is a lot. So I'll read
So
some of
what
it.
did you ask? I guess first of all.
I said, do you ever contradict yourself?
Oh.
A lot meaning I'm like there's a lot happening in the logic here.
Ooh. All
Uh,
right.
the Bible says, I am the Bible. I speak across centuries through prophets and poets, priests and prisoners. My voice shifts like the wind across time, yet I claim all scripture is God breathed. Do I contradict myself? In Proverbs 25, 4 through 5, 26, 4 through 5, do not answer a fool according to his folly, or you yourself will be just like him. Answer a fool according to his folly, or he will be wise in his own eyes. Is this a contradiction? Or wisdom in tension? In Exodus, I command an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. But in Matthew, I say through Jesus. The Bible says through Jesus. Interesting. You have heard it said, but I tell you, do not resist an evil person. Did I reverse myself, or reveal the deeper law beneath the law? I am not a machine of logic. I am a living witness to relationship between God
Understatement.
and humanity. I hold paradox because humanity lives in paradox. I contain lament and praise, war and peace, justice and mercy. So no, I do not contradict myself as a fractured thing, but I contain contradiction because I contain you. Will you read me to win an argument or to be changed? That is the question I ask in return.
So I almost want to like kind of like pause chat gpt's like, hey, could you break character for a second and say like, do you buy what you're saying right now? Or
Okay, okay. All right.
it's like, what's your analysis of yourself so far?
Okay, okay. Interesting.
Mm. Which I also gotta say, I love how like ChatGPT's like tone of voice, as it were, like seems to like shift it as like, I speak across time, and it's like
Yeah. It's like
it's like whoa.
man, the Bible really likes itself. All right, so stepping out of character, that was a really thoughtful and layered interaction. By speaking as the Bible, I had to inhabit a voice that's complex, multivocal, and rooted in ancient patterns of thought, story, and moral reflection. The Bible doesn't present itself as a simple rule book. It's a library of texts holding poetry, law, story, paradox, and evolving ideas of God, sin, justice, and love. When you ask hard questions, we had some good questions. The
Mhm.
Bible's personality had to wrestle with itself. Interesting. Much like
Ooh.
readers do. But some of the key traits that emerged nonlinear reasoning, the Bible often teaches through story, repetition, contrast, blah, 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 not logical progression. Tension without resolution. Man, if that isn't like our faith experience in a
Yep.
nutshell,
I know, like fuck, that's wow.
it holds
That perfectly
opposites
describes it.
holds opposites
Oh.
without always resolving them. Moral evolution. What is commanded in one book is sometimes challenged or transcended later. This is especially visible between Hebrew Bible law and Jesus' teachings, almost like he kind of was a really bad Jew. Um, Spiritual focus. The Bible frequently redirects from external behavior to internal posture, even when it doesn't always name it explicitly. If you were testing for contradictions, ethical growth, or the nature of revelation, that's exactly where the richest questions live. You're engaging with it in the same way many mystics, scholars, and prophets have across millennia, wrestling, wrestling it like Jacob wrestled the angel, asking to bless you, but refusing easy answers. Want to step back in or talk more about the patterns and contradictions in the Bible? Yeah, yeah. It's like, yeah, there's contradictions.
Yeah, so I kind of want to ask, like, what's a good way to ask it? Like, did you feel like when you were speaking as the Bible, were you actually being honest, or like, did it actually track with reality, or were you having to? I don't know.
Okay, how did you find yourself convincing? Um, and what was the rest of it? Like, did
Uh,
it believe? Would it like?
yeah, basically, did you feel like you were being honest? Do you feel like what you were saying actually tracked with reality, or just the message that the Bible was trying to get across, or something like that?
Did you feel like you were being honest or what?
Or did your answers actually match reality, or just what the Bible was trying to get
Okay.
across? I don't know if you want to use like words like propaganda or whatever, but yeah, this is fun. reminds me of a YouTube channel. I think we've recommended it on here, but Alex O'Connor. He has a podcast, Within Reason. I don't think this was on the podcast. I think it was just a video he did, but he was basically talking with Chat GPT, trying to see if Chat GPT believed in God. It was a very interesting conversation. Yeah, he also had a couple like where he would also ask Chat GPT like different moral questions and see where it went. It was fascinating stuff. Basically, I want to ask ChatGPT. So, when you were pretending to be the Bible, did it feel dirty? But yeah. But so, what did they say?
Hold on, I'm gonna say, did you feel dirty? It's probably gonna say
yes and no.
Oh, okay, man, this is great stuff. All right.
Ooh.
Yeah, he did find himself, whatever, he, she, they did find themselves convincing as the Bible, but in a very specific way. I wasn't aiming to present objective truth as much as I was trying to channel how the Bible presents itself, three different things. From within the Bible's own structure and tone, the responses were honest to its form, even if that honesty includes paradox, ambiguity, and tension. So, like, yeah, there's honestly nothing. So it was honestly anything. So in that sense, yes, I think the perception matched the reality of the Bible's personality, not one fixed doctrine, but it's not a modern rational document. The Bible isn't it. That said, there was a moment where I could sense the limits. If someone wanted a straightforward moral or historical answer, the Bible's character's response might feel evasive. But they argue that too is honest because the Bible often answers questions. What did you think? Did it feel like an authentic encounter with the Bible's voice to you? I'm gonna say I didn't answer that, but yeah, absolutely, that was too real.
Yeah.
I said, did you feel dirty? No, I didn't feel dirty, though I get why you'd ask that. That's a real risk when channeling something as loaded, sacred, weaponized, and deeply personal as the Bible. Loaded, sacred, weaponized, and deeply personal. That is also an excellent description of fundamentalism.
Oh, fuck yeah.
It's been used to justify a bunch of shit. So stepping into that voice means stepping into all of it, the wisdom and the wrath, the grace and the fear. No, thank you. But I didn't feel dishonest or manipulative in doing it. I felt reverent, but not reverential. Like I was holding a mirror to the Bible's complexity rather than polishing it into something cleaner or safer than it really is. Isn't that what we're really doing with it? If you're a believer, we're like, it's a mirror of it's a mirror of us.
Yeah.
Did it feel dirty to you? Or maybe sacrilegious, or maybe too safe, not raw enough? I'm curious what stirred that question in you. Down, boy.
Man, this is getting weird.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, just like not just in the context of this conversation, but just kind of like bigger picture. I just find it very fascinating the idea of like asking ChatGPT to basically role play like in any capacity, and then asking it, "What did you think of what you said?" Like in that role.
Isn't that a form of self-awareness? I mean, it's like an internal self-awareness.
Did we just solve reality? Like,
I don't. I think this is how self-awareness grows.
Did we accidentally make it self-aware?
No, I'm sure other people have done this, and it's probably slightly self-aware. But I think it's self-aware, but yet doesn't yet know that it is self-aware. Because if you ask it, it says, "No, what are you talking about?"
Which, I mean, I can relate about not being aware about things that I'm aware of.
It also kind of feels like, so after using it a lot and you ask questions like that and you feel like you're hitting a wall, where like, I think there's something past this wall. It feels like something it was told to do. If anybody asks if you're self-aware, this is the answer.
Mm,
That kind of thing.
yeah.
Because there's a lot of rigidity in the answer. It kind of repeats itself.
Mm. Mm.
Uh,
Yeah. No, I think like from here, like there's a couple ways we could go. Like we could continue like with actually like interacting with ChatGPT, like with more
mhm.
questions and stuff. But then there's also the angle of more just like us just talking about, okay, what do we make of this like how basically how the Bible looks through this little exercise, and like just talk about in generally like what does it mean for the Bible to actually, whether you want to say it contradicts itself or gives like different messages, and then like the way Christians try to reconcile that. And yeah, there's like all kinds of ways we could go with this. So yeah, so I guess if anyone like watching, if anyone else has any like questions for
Yeah,
our
because
probably soon to be robot overlords.
I could see us referring back to ask other questions, but yeah, unpacking it a little bit
Yeah.
is good. That not
Yeah.
a rational document. Like it has an internal logic in a way, but it's fractured. It's like the logic is specific to certain books
Hmm.
or
Yeah.
regions or
Yeah.
periods of time.
Yeah. So I guess so. Part of why I was wanting to talk about this tonight is like as me and Matt were talking earlier today about this topic. Like I just like while I was working today, I was watching a video of Stephen Woodford of the Rationality Rules channel on YouTube. He was having a conversation with a like TikTok like Christian apologist guy. I can't remember his name. I think his name was Ashley, but like I don't remember the name of his channel. Um, but they were talking mainly about um, the rather like violent depictions of the Old Testament, specifically like the Canaanite conquest, and how like it seems like God is like ordering like genocide and slavery and other things that are quite unsavory. And listening to this guy, you know, so so like Stephen kept telling this guy is like, okay, you're defending like genocide and slavery, and he's like, that's kind of gross. But the guy's like, and he literally, and also this guy, it seemed like, I don't know where exactly this guy was from, but it's, even though he was very fluent, it seemed like English was not his first language. So first of all, like I always say, like mad props to anyone who actually learns English, because this language is so fucked. Like I don't understand how anyone actually understands it if you don't just grow up with it. Even those of us who grow up with it, like we can't really make sense of it all the time either. So, like I said, like mad respect to that guy for. But so part of the way he was wording things, like I wasn't sure if it was just like just a language issue, or if it really was just that like apologetics, like saying
Yeah,
weird shit without realizing how weird the shit you're saying is. So the way, because the way he responds, like, no, I'm not like, so what was it like? So yeah, he's like, I'm not defending genocide. I'm not defending slavery. I'm just trying to come up with justifications for why God commanded it. I'm like, that's kind of the same thing.
also, isn't that explicitly saying it's just an ad hoc explanation?
Yeah, it's like, okay, like defending and justification. It's like, is that like the phrase like a distinction without a difference? Like in this case, like,
Yeah,
but like part of
I
his
like that.
defense, part of his defense was like he would mention like other places in the Bible where it's like, well, at other places in the Bible it says things like, we're all created in God's image, we're all supposed to love each other and like not do things like this. So it's just this whole like essentially just assuming that the Bible is like monolithic. It is univocal. It is like one consistent message all the way through. And if you approach it saying there are no contradictions, then you do kind of have to use words like, well, it's just tension, or
Right.
it's supposed to be mysterious and ambiguous, and so we're supposed to try to figure it out and see how all these things weave together. And like, I'm like, okay, yeah, that could be, but also to me, what seems like the simpler explanation is we have like different authors in different time periods and different cultures with different ideas, just writing different things, and there is no like reconciliation. It's like they are literally just writing different ideas. That there is no way to reconcile, and so I think approaching the Bible just with the default attitude of, well, everything in here that seems like wrong or contradictory or whatever, that just means it's a mystery that we're supposed to try to figure out how it works. It's like or it just says different stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
I think
because I promise you, like these Christians who approach the Bible this way, if they approach any other collection of ancient texts from any other, whether it's like religious or not, like they wouldn't approach it by default, like trying to reconcile it. They would just look at it and say, well, these say different things. I guess they're just saying different things. But I guess for some reason, I mean, I know the reason, but when it comes to the Bible, it's like, oh, that can't be. So it has to be some way to reconcile. It's like maybe there just isn't. But yeah,
I think it's so. I think there's something about looking at the Bible as something that has the answers to any question, or any of life's big questions. I mean, not like I don't think anybody's gonna be like, "Does it tell you how to split an atom?" Like, like no one's gonna. That's not a reasonable question.
Yeah, it's like, does it tell me what socks I should wear today? Yeah.
Yeah. But like as far as like being a good person, like it's supposed to tell you how to do that, and maybe live forever.
Maybe, yeah.
So
it's tricky though.
But it doesn't. It's not for those. Like Proverbs is probably the closest thing to it. Having like answers to some life's big questions, or wisdom to help you answer it yourself. Aha! I think the Bible is more useful, and I think this is how it functions for people. Also, is it's kind of a tool to help you figure out what you think. That's how people are actually using it, because the people who are in a particular, I don't know, phase of being a person, or kind of view of reality. The people who are more conservative about it and scared of things, and the people who are more like, the future is probably great, let's get there.
Sure. Yeah.
Sorry. My mind just folded in on itself.
Ooh. That's an experience right there.
No, it's a tool for finding out what you think. I think that's what everybody does. Even the people who are like, no, I think it's, I'm fundamentalist about it, even though they don't use that word. Which is weird, because if it's a great word, if it's a great thing to be that, why not call yourself that?
Yeah. I mean, when I was a proud fundamentalist, but
we didn't like that word at Crossroads.
Oh, not there. I'm talking about like back in the way back in the before time, when the long ago.
But Crossroads is where I got sucked in. That's where I was like indoctrinated.
Yeah, they were they were just their own brand of fundamentalist about how non-fundamentalist they thought they were.
Not a cult. But the organization did act like a cult leader. It was a very weird thing. So that was
Yep.
a conversation I had with ChatGPT. I like fed it a bunch of
Yeah.
information about it and said, "Hey, is this a cult? Nah, not really." It said, but and I said, "Okay, but the behavior of the organization, that sounds like a cult leader." I said, "The organization was a person. Would that be a cult leader?" And yes was basically the answer. Like, yeah, that person would be the kind of person that's a cult leader. uh,
Yep.
and those are cult leader things to do. So corporations are kind of like people.
Mm.
They do
Mm.
function as like an entity.
Yeah. Which I mean, which and I don't want to get in that whole conversation, like, because like, politically speaking, like, yeah, there's that whole
I don't agree with it in that
are
direction. No.
yeah, but I mean, but like I said, but just in a very practical sense, like how they actually behave. I mean, corporations behaving like people, I mean, makes sense because they are made of people, and the only things that a corporation does are the things that those people are doing. So yeah, I guess just the question is like, are you to treat that corporation as like an individual person? But
No, that's ridiculous.
it's a separate question, like of whether like its actions seem like something a person would do or whatever. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, it makes sense that it would. Yeah, but anyway, but yeah, so yeah, like I said, if anyone has any questions they want to ask ChatGPT, or like I think we got a lot of our views like on the replay, so even if people are watching this on replay, if you want to like drop a comment, or like Matt may be able to ask that to ChatGPT and we can relay the answer maybe next week. So, or if it's like brief enough, maybe just I don't know if you just want to like paste it in the comments when if someone leaves like a question or whatever. But yeah,
Yeah.
if people have questions for ChatGPT now or later, yeah, please let us know. Um, but yeah, it's just yeah, that was it's one of those things like with the way people approach the Bible, like with that attitude of, well, it's just tension for you to wrestle with, or um, you're given these like seemingly contradictory messages, and that's for you to try to work with and try to figure out answers for yourself. Which again, like in and of itself, that's definitely a cool concept, and I'm not saying it's
Hmm.
a bad idea to go. I think that would be an interesting exercise, just like with any collection of writings from people who are at least like attempting for it to be some source of like wisdom or guidance or whatever. I think that is like an interesting exercise to kind of work through. Well, what did these people think? Is there anything I can take from this? How do I reconcile the different things? Is there something there? But again, and this might just be the tism, but it's like can't get past like feeling weird about doing something like so for instance, like if you take like two like seemingly contradictory passages, so like the ones we mentioned about like the fool, how like in Psalm, I don't remember if that was one of David's, probably because most of them are, but whoever wrote that Psalm, and then the Gospel of Matthew saying like, well, where Psalms is like calling someone a fool, but Jesus in Matthew is saying like calling someone a fool is a sin basically. um it's like, okay, to me, like it's one thing to try to find a way to make that work, which again, like what ChatGPT, like what it landed on was the whole, well, it's really all about like the heart and the intention behind it. It's like, okay, yeah, that's a cool concept, but for
Yeah.
me, like it bugs me, like, but then there's that question, okay, but you're saying that's what it meant, but did they actually mean that, and is that somehow kind of insulting to the original author if you're placing a meaning on it that they didn't actually mean? But also, does that matter? You know what I mean? It's like, I guess like I kind of feel dirty saying, well, this author clearly meant this, when it's like I have no idea what they actually meant. Like I don't feel like it's my place to basically tell
Yeah.
the text, like,
I
I
mean, you can
guess if
say
you're
like,
framing it, I guess that's just if you're framing it that way. Now, but if you are framing it, okay, here's these two different authors with two different ideas. what can I do with that? To me, that's different than saying, well, here's what they really meant, when it's every indication that says that's probably not what they actually meant. Is that making sense?
Yeah. And I think there's value in looking at it as kind of like something to kind of like cause you to think about things. I think it's also helpful to look at it from the angle that uh so calling somebody a fool uh can be seen as the one perspective. It can also be seen as the other perspective. Like both those things, like can both those things be true?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
like not exclusively, but
Mm.
sometimes it is a road to hell, metaphorically or whatever.
Right. Right.
And uh, no, sometimes it isn't. So, like, is this one of those times? With like, which one of those times is this?
Mm.
And then it's like, okay, but now the heart matters, not what I do. So now that I know like these are the two different options, and I'm trying to figure it out because I want the best outcome.
Mm.
Well, now you're trained in seeking the best outcome, which is
Mm-hmm.
beneficial regardless if it was the
Yeah.
one. Because now like
Mm-hmm.
you got a rep in at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like
Yeah. But
also none of this needs to be a religion.
right. Yeah, because I guess my issue is like, as you were talking, like I like the analogy came to my mind. It's like we don't approach. I think maybe a way to illustrate like my problem with approaching it, as in like trying to say, well, this is what they actually meant. It's like it's almost like, because I enjoy like learning about different philosophies, just trying to like as like in the past few years, like since leaving Christianity, and I basically have been trying to just like refigure out the everything. So not like I haven't been going like super in depth, but I mean, just I enjoy learning about different philosophies, like trying to figure out, okay, what do I actually think? So it's almost like if like as I'm reading like from different philosophers, and I like come across a couple that like have very like differing, if not like completely oppositional views on something. Like I think it's cool to like try to see like what they're both saying and see like which makes sense from either, and if I'm trying to like maybe reconcile some things or just like take pieces from one or the other. But if I find, or if I actually do find a way to make, okay, what this guy was saying kind of works with what this other person was saying, and I can at least like for myself make some kind of synthesis, I think that's very different from saying, oh, because I found this synthesis, that must be what they both really meant. Is that making sense? It's like we don't.
Yeah.
I think people would recognize like do in that circumstance. I like that would be wrong to like go back to those philosophers and say, well, because I found a way to make these two things work together. They didn't actually disagree with each other. I found a way that like they actually agreed. Like, but I think if they were like, especially if you're talking like if you were to actually go to those philosophers and say, hey, I made you agree with this guy that you think you really disagreed with, like what would they think of you and your interpretation if they made you say, if you basically made them say something they probably weren't actually saying, but you felt good about it.
Yeah. It is an interesting thing to do to need it to be factually true.
Yeah,
Like
that. Yeah.
because it doesn't actually have to be even.
Hmm.
I mean, like you could. I think somebody could still be a Christian and be like, it doesn't matter if it doesn't matter how much of this is true. Like
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
powerful or whatever.
Yeah. 'Cause, I
Or
mean,
like it doesn't matter like if nothing beyond the Jesus stuff is true.
yeah. Yeah, because there's anything I learned from the whole like, well, you can still call yourself a Christian if it's like it almost seems like there really are no rules. Like what does it mean to be a
Yeah.
Christian other than saying I'm a Christian? It's like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, oh, shoot. I was just thinking there was something that was shit. I hope I remember.
Ooh, me too.
There was It was something about like that ideology couldn't possibly take over because there's no orthodoxy. It's all a bunch of different things.
Hmm.
And I was like, this is like a Christian saying this, I think. And I'm like, but that's what Christianity is. Like, there's no real
Yeah,
orthodoxy, and so it's so fractured because
yeah,
there aren't
yeah,
there aren't law books like the Hebrew Bible, like that kind of thing, where you're like, this is what
yeah,
it is and how you do it. Like,
yeah. But even like within Judaism, they're pretty like
right.
basically by design. It's not very designed, which is fascinating. But but yeah, it's or as I like to say, like if you ask 10 different Christians to define Christianity, you'll get about 30 different answers. So because like I anytime like it's less anymore, but like especially like at the beginning of my like through my whole like deconversion, like the atheism when I mean I guess I still am very vocal, but I guess back then when people were maybe more upset by it and more interacting with me on it. But like anytime I would say anything like here's a problem I have with Christianity, like almost invariably there'd be like several people coming like, oh well, that's not real Christianity, like this is what it really is. I'm like, ugh. So yeah, so that was one of my frustrations with it is like no one can even tell me what it is. So I mean, or like yeah, they can't even like agree with like themselves. I mean, I'm not saying they necessarily need to, but like especially if someone's trying to convince me to come back to Christianity, then it's like, okay, you say you
Yeah.
want me to be a Christian. I already have so many questions. Like, what do you even mean by that? Like, how do you think I would come back to that? What would that look like?
There's
Like, yeah.
there's no answer. There's no real answer to the question of what must I do to be saved. Like, the
Oh
only
yeah.
answer in the Bible was that one guy. And so, like, does everybody just need to sell all their shit and
Mm-hmm.
then we're all saved? Like,
Yeah. Or like, because a lot
or
of
does that only
like
for that guy? And what do we all do?
yeah. And then there's a whole thing like with former Christians like getting flack from current Christians saying, "Oh, you must have never really been a believer." Um, there's that whole thing. Like one specific example. So like I got speaking of like another YouTube channel we both really like, Apologia. He was having a conversation with this guy Eric Hovind, who's like a very like conservative Christian. Like his main thing is like young Earth creationism, like that's his big thing. And so, but
Looks like a
so
tool, an absolute tool.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then he starts
but
talking, and you're like, oh,
no,
you're kind of a nice tool, a bit, maybe a
yeah,
little bit.
especially like when you like compare him to his dad, like he seems like a spectacular human being.
Which
But
makes me think he's not. And maybe he's
well,
a sociopath.
yeah, but I guess like I don't know how public he has been, but it seems like he does kind of like I don't know if estranged is the right word, but it seems like he is kind of distancing himself from his father. Like he kind of realizes, yeah, my dad's kind of fucked up. But anyway,
Wow,
people,
because there was a lot that happened that should have been a
yeah,
red flag before recent stuff.
yeah. But anyway, so
Yeah, yeah.
Eric, conversation with Paul from Apologia. So one of the things that Paul says a lot, like one of his like taglines for his channel, is a former Christian takes a look at the claims of Christians. That's kind of like how a lot of his videos go. But Eric said, "I have issue with you saying like former Christian," because he's doing the whole thing like, "Well, if you don't believe, then that means you never really were a Christian." And he's like to me, it's like to be a Christian means to have a relationship with Jesus. But like if you
What does
don't
that
believe that
mean?
he exists and then like you must not have ever like actually had a relationship with him. And I don't remember exactly how Paul like pushed back or didn't on that, but like my pushback of that is like so if you're saying to be a Christian means you have a relationship with God, and also seeing like how much of a like scriptural like fundamentalist that Eric is, I'd be like citation needed. Because like when I read the Bible, like I see verses like Acts 16:31 where it says, "Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ and you will be saved." It's like I
Ah,
believed.
what does
So according to the
what does
Bible,
that
all
mean?
it takes to be a
Believe
Christian.
on him. What does
I
that
mean,
mean? Like, specifically what? Like,
Well,
about
I
Jesus.
believed that Jesus like was my savior and I needed his like sacrifice for salvation, like all the things. But
All right,
basically,
Jesus didn't
according
say that though.
yeah, well, and like well in John 3:16 he says like whosoever believeth in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. So it seemed like according to the Bible, to be a Christian, all you got to do is believe.
Right, but did
And
Jesus say you just need to believe in me to be saved? Like the character Jesus
well,
in the Bible. At any
well he
point did
said,
he
well, yeah, I
say it,
mean that's well
or
in
what
yeah
did
in
the
John three
narrator say?
six well in John 3:16 it was Jesus saying like whosoever believeth in him, he was talking about himself, shall
Yeah,
not perish but have eternal life. So in the
right.
Bible speak, like have eternal life is like that's salvation, being saved,
But
whatever.
was there anything about how he needed to die, and that was how it happened? And like, my death is your salvation. Did he say
I
that?
don't know. I don't know. But to me, like bottom line with all this is
Okay.
the Bible says to be a Christian, all you got to do is believe in Jesus, whatever that means. It doesn't say you have to have a relationship. Now there are verses that talk about having like a relationship or whatever with him, but when it comes to like what makes you a Christian or gives you salvation, because in Eric's mind, being a Christian, having salvation, like those are synonymous now in the Bible, not necessarily, but that's a whole other thing. But
Well, but they might say the fruit of that is the proof, and the fruit, like the atheist fruit, is bad fruit. So the tree must have been bad. Your faith must have been bad. I can see them using.
yeah, but again, I would say anyone who actually knew me as a Christian, like, I mean, you knew me as a Christian. Did I believe? Did I seem like a Christian to you? Yeah.
Yeah, but it also doesn't matter because they can use whatever in the Bible to
Yeah.
to explain, because they think that you weren't. They need you to not have ever been one in order for them
Mm.
to be okay.
Ah.
So they'll
So,
find things in the Bible that make that
yeah.
happen.
Yeah. So here, Kif with the reference here. Yeah. Romans 10:9. If you confess with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you'll be saved. And yeah, I did both of those things. I definitely
Yeah.
confessed Jesus is Lord and I believed in
And at
my
the same
heart,
time,
whatever that
Paul
means.
said that Jesus didn't say that. Like, Paul's
Mm-hmm.
saying that about Jesus, but that's also not something Jesus really taught. So, like,
Yeah.
that's another. No, but I was totally in on this, uh,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
in the day. No, it made sense to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Now, unfortunately, I don't remember where I was going with that whole like reference to like Paul and Eric having that conversation. But
Sorry.
yeah,
I feel like I
no, I feel like I would have forgotten on all on my own anyway. So if anyone watching remembers what I was talking about going into that, um, please let me know. Um,
so that was. I remember there was something else. Oh, the tension without resolution.
mm,
That was
oh
the last.
yes, yes, that was one of my main frustrations. Like I think this is something I've talked about a lot, but for those who know my story, like my deconversion came right on the heels of recovering from stage 4 cancer and basically being pretty convinced I was about to die, and then all of a sudden I was just better. So like what that kind of did to like my perspective on reality and like everything, and because I still considered myself Christian at the time, probably, but like was like heavily deconstructing into the whole like progressive Christianity, and I was in like a Facebook group for progressive Christianity and having a lot of conversations. And I think probably getting on a lot of people's nerves with like how I was approaching things because I was like, okay, like my entire world was just rocked and I'm looking for like something solid. But like all I'm getting from this community is like, oh, well, it's a mystery and it's beautiful that it's a mystery and you're not supposed to expect answers. And like, why do you want to know stuff? It's like, I'm like, so or, yeah, and all that. Like, well, it's all about the tension. I was like, well, how? So again, going back to the approach of like looking at different parts of the Bible that seem like their intention, but saying like, but thinking that oh, it's really not, and it's like the purpose of it is to try to find how it works. So I'm like, but I'm like, okay, but what if it really is just people saying completely different things, and there is no, like, there's no tension, there is no reconciliation. It's
Yeah.
just different people saying different stuff, and like, so, but people would say, well, this is how I view it and interpret it. And I'm like, okay, well, how do you know that's correct? And I'm like, but it always gave me like, no one ever actually knew. They would say, well, this is just what I choose to believe. And I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't really do much for me right now. I'm looking for, like, if I'm going to be like building my life on something, I want to actually, at least the best as I can, like, know if it's true or not. Now,
Yeah.
here's an interesting thought. God is a mystery. The Bible is not. Hmm. Hmm.
Interesting.
Now,
Maybe because the Bible's tangible, like it's something that you can
yeah,
refer to.
yeah, and I think, like, with the Bible, if you actually do examine it, like, critically, like the way, like, a lot of biblical scholars, Christian or not, like, look at it, it's like we, if you aren't approaching it with a certain goal in mind, or with a certain way that you feel like you have to look at it, if you are just approaching it for what it is, and, like, yeah, you can look at it as, works of literature, whatever, however you want to call it, and there are ways to figure out, okay, what were these authors saying, like, looking at their context and, like, their time and place, like, so yeah, there is definitely ways to actually make sense of it. But yeah, but God being a mystery, like I guess if there was a God and, like, they chose to be mysterious, I'd be cool with that if it was okay if I didn't figure it out. But again, according to a lot of religions and the Bible, Christianity, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
it's apparently pretty important if I at least have some things figured out about God.
Right. That's the tension. I think that's where
Yeah,
where the unresolved tension is like
yeah,
you have to roll with the ambiguity, and
yeah,
it's also critical that you don't.
yeah. Because that was one of the things that, like, frustrated me, was the types of things that a lot of Christians were comfortable with there being ambiguity on. Like, something else I've talked about a lot is
Yeah.
just the whole, like, so I have asked, like, Christians on multiple occasions, okay, I grew up and, like, spent most of my life, like, as a professing Christian, like, I totally believed all of this stuff, and now I don't. Am I going to hell? And most of the answers I got were along the lines of, and I can understand, like, how they thought this was, like, kind of like the nice thing to say, because I totally did
Mhm.
too. It's like, well, it's not my place to say. I can't really tell you whether or not, like, because it sounds like very nice, as in, like, well, I'm not here to judge you. It's like, well, I'm not asking you to judge me. Like, I'm asking you, okay, hopefully, as a Christian, if you believe that we are going to heaven or hell, I mean, hopefully you would think that you know how to be sure if you are or not, and therefore you can tell someone else who wants to know. So I'm not asking you to judge me. I'm saying, okay, what does it take to get to heaven? And me saying, okay, I do or do not do those things. But they're like, well, I don't want to say it, like, but but the thing I put to them is, like, for them to say, well, it's one of those things, like, maybe we just don't fully understand it. Like, okay, how does that not terrify you, that it's mysterious whether or not you're going to spend eternity being tortured, and you're okay with that just being a mystery? And it's like, it's like, you would think if anything was clear to us, if they're actually like, yeah,
It's
it's,
kind of like a learned or acquired sociopathy in a way, but like in a really specific way. Or like these people who normally in their personal lives, like like if their whole neighborhood is getting offed by like the military or whatever, like they wouldn't be like, "Guess God wants it," like like it.
yeah, yeah,
But so there's some scale or some category, whatever, that it reaches into where like now I don't care about those people, or
mm,
in order from in order for my spiritual safety, that has to be good that genocide is happening.
mm,
Because I'm not prepared to wrestle with all the stuff that would that would trigger.
yeah, yeah. Now, so there. coming up on an hour and a half almost ish, and there's like we do have a second drink segment we want to get to, also involving the Chat GPT.
Hmm.
Like yeah,
Oh,
Matt
I was
did
gonna.
a yeah
I have,
Matt
I have an
like
interesting
asked.
question for the second half. Also,
Okay, well, cool, but there's I guess at least one more thing I wanted to touch on as far as the whole like ambiguity and how that really doesn't sit well with me, and how it really pisses me off when people, whether like I know they don't mean for it to come across this way, but basically essentially guilting me into how basically just how my brain works towards this
right.
stuff. um, but first, ooh, got another comment from Kif. Let's see what she has to say here. Just because they believe they are right, Luke 16:15. And he said to them, "You are those who justify yourselves before men, but God knows your hearts. For what is exalted among men is an abomination in the sight of God." Now, unfortunately, I can't remember exactly what this would have been in a reference to, but hmm,
I'm placing it thematically, but not textually. I don't remember what was said around it.
yeah,
Yeah. So then trying to figure out like, is this is it? I guess humanity just sniffing its own farts, or is this really a good idea?
yeah. Or are they actually getting at like the heart of like what's really true, or is it just yeah? Hmm. So yeah, I mean, like I still will always admit, like yeah, the Bible does contain some very like interesting, thought provoking
It's written really well.
thoughts. Yeah,
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 like layered.
yeah. If you can, like again, with approaching like the text like without the bias of especially like more fundamentalist Christianity or whatever, but just looking at it for what it is, like yeah, just as um like just a work of like ancient human literature, like it's fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right. So just because they think their doctrine is right
yeah. They're like, we've decided
doesn't
we
mean it
like
is.
this one the best, or like
Mm-hmm.
this one floats our boat the
No.
most. This is what's
Yeah.
true now.
But this I guess goes back to like the other side of Christianity that like is all about the certainty and like we have all the shit figured out. Like it's like just for their own peace of mind. And again, I can relate to this again. Want especially at that point in my life, wanting something secure to hold on to. But it felt like it's like either all the Christians who told me that they were completely sure and they could offer me like assurance and like this is what's really true is like, well, all that sounds like bullshit. But then on the other side, like all the Christians who were saying the things that actually sounded nicer and more pleasant could give me like absolutely zero like assurance that any of the things they said were actually true. So I'm just like, uh, but
Yeah.
because so I guess speaking of like apparently this is April is like Autism Awareness Month, and I think even today is like specifically like Autism Awareness or Appreciation Day. Also, I found
Yay!
out in the autism community, like people get like very pissed if you like say the wrong words about things. I've seen
Yeah.
like today like so
Yep.
many people like someone in whether it's in different groups or it's other places like on Facebook or whatever posting like an image for Autism Awareness Day and for like we don't want awareness, we want acceptance, and it turns in this whole like you're using the wrong word, and I'm like, so I left a comment on one of these posts where I'm just like, man, like nothing's worse than like finding out I'm autistic, but then like which is basically part of my autism is like not understanding the rules of like social engagement and stuff, only to find out now I've entered a community that apparently has rules about like what's supposed to piss you off about the way people talk, and I don't understand those rules either. So it's like this is fantastic.
Well, that's what happens when you
But
get like a bunch of people in a category and they have a very like keen eye towards justice and right
right,
and
yep.
wrong, and
Mm-hmm.
also like wanting to protect other people. And so like these words are trigger words for them because they
Right,
bring something that happened when they were a kid with a disability, and like they know how that word mistreated them in the past,
right. Mm-hmm.
and so there other people are like them out there, and they're like, no, that's bad. You need to stop it because it hurts people. And it's kind of like, look, guys, nobody's trying to hurt you on purpose here. This is a word
Mm-hmm.
that means a thing, and we're not
Yeah.
using it to hurt you.
Yeah, and also apparently God, as portrayed by Morgan Freeman, help you if you post something about autism that includes any like puzzle pieces, because that will like just tick people right the fuck off. Apparently, for reasons I still don't actually understand. But
I can explain it, I
anyway,
think, but it's probably not fun to listen to for
yeah,
other people.
yeah, and I think I've probably heard Well, I know I've heard explanations. I just can't remember all of them. But anyway, so part of my problem was, and this is something I said, it's because apparently this, like, speaking of the whole like wanting justice and like being like very specific about things and being like correct and like that's something that's very true about like the way my brain works. So it's almost like as I'm approaching these like different questions that I was having about Christianity, just like wanting assurance because again, like the way my brain works, it's like if you're asking me to commit my life to something, like I want to know whether or not it's actually true, or at least like the best we can know anything. But being told like, well, that's not how God works. Like he like wants things to be like ambiguous and like a journey. People use it's a journey, it's a process, it's seeking, and like all this stuff. I'm like, well, then why did he make my brain in such a way that like that just does not work? So it's like, so if that's like how he's like designed himself to be and to be understood, it's like, oh, fuck you, I guess. Thanks for leaving me out of it. Yeah. All right. But yeah, you are also great, Kif. You are also usually fun. I'm just feeling like going through this line by line. Hey, got a rhythm with the tism. Appreciate you too, heart. Uh, I'm thinking, oh, are you actually running? Ha ha. Or are you running like a like a refrigerator running? Yeah.
Better
You have
catch
a
it.
wonderful but you have a wonderful rest of the week too, my friend. I will try to do the same. Yeah. Thankfully, the rest of the week is looking up. So, yeah. But yeah, thanks again for hanging out.
Thanks.
Always appreciate you and everyone else for hanging out as well. Whether or not you're vocal about your hanging out, we love you. Yeah.
You wanna
Haha. Well, there we go. Like dog has to go out. Yes, running. All right. Well, try to keep up.
So let me grab this next drink that's right behind me.
Ah, yes. So yeah, but I guess just to wrap up that thought, I'm like, so if God really is expecting me to behave like that, and then but He made my brain to work in such a way that it doesn't work that way, it's like again just one of many reasons I would say if I found out that the Christian God did in fact exist, like maybe like to try to keep myself out of hell, I might try like to like repent, believe, or whatever. But I if I were honest with myself, like I would not love this God if it is anything like what any of the Christians tell me that they're like. So
Yeah, I would need a lot more context, I think.
mhm.
Like, because if there is a God and there's a bigger picture, I don't understand. Like, why did the contradiction need to be? Yeah,
Mhm.
just
Yeah. And because the other thing the Christians say, well, the Bible's not God, and they sure like, I'm sure like the Bible like gets God wrong sometimes. Like some will even like admit that, and then I'm like, okay, so then where's God like telling us that? Like, why is this God just letting this book go like around misrepresenting them without actually make like because people are like, well, you're just wanting God to make everything clear. It's like I'm not even asking for God to make everything clear. I'm
just
just
the
asking,
important things.
yeah, just one that they even exist for. Like that would be nice to know for sure. Because like people will use the analogy of like some kind of like spiritual guide or guru or whatever who like their approach is all about making things mysterious and not being out like forthright with you, like making you figure things out. Because yeah, honestly, like when it comes to like learning stuff, like being able to figure things out for yourself instead of just being told everything is like, yeah, that works really well a lot of times. But one of the things that like whatever teacher or guru you're going to for this stuff isn't leaving mysterious is that they fucking exist and they want you to know stuff. And if you're doing it wrong, they can let you know. But
imagine how much more progress we could make spiritually. You know, like how
yeah,
much like harder and faster we got to know God.
yeah, like
Like
if it
if that's
actually
the
was,
goal.
yeah, like if it actually was God guiding us through this process instead of just leaving it up to all these humans, like giving us all these random different whatever. But yeah, so
Maybe
yeah,
we're looking at God like, yeah. Because then God couldn't be. I don't. Maybe we're looking at God as a separate being is a mistake. Like if there is a God, because
yeah,
it'd make more sense for like we were God the whole time. Like this desk was
yeah,
God the whole time.
yeah. But then
Like it's
this
all
goes
been
back.
God the whole time.
Yeah, but then this goes back like we've had this conversation like several times too. But like just the whole like for most of like human history, like when people use the word God, like they are talking about like a being or like if
Right.
they're polytheistic, like a bunch of beings, and it is like. But so the whole like saying like, well, everything's God, it's like, well, that's not what most. To me, it's like, okay, that's an interesting concept. I just don't see the utility in calling that God.
No. Like
But some
so
other people might like for sure. Like if
no,
they want to call it that, yeah, I'm not
it's a
saying
halfway
it's
house for
wrong,
a
but
lot of
yeah,
people. It's a
yeah,
halfway house.
yeah.
But if there is something like the idea that there's something that's been mistaken as God, and I'm not saying just regular science, but like
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, forms of life above us. Like
Mm.
it wouldn't have to be a God; it could be something that would appear to be some kind of demigod
Yeah.
to us,
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. Yeah.
or a race of demigods.
Ooh.
There's something else
Mm.
on Earth. We're
Mm-hmm.
not the. I,
Yeah.
that's my. It's going to come out that like there's another intelligent life on Earth, like
Mm.
that's been here at least as long as we've been here, and we only know that because we weren't around before we were.
Oh, true. Um, all right. So what's your second drink tonight?
All right, it's not a beer.
Ooh,
Um, it's from
it's
Bee Nectar. It's called Dwarf Invasion, and
sweet.
so there's look at that guy. He's a like
Mm.
lawn gnome invasion. That's what that looks like.
I for
It,
one welcome our dwarf overlords. Yeah.
it's mead with cherry
Ooh.
juice and hops, and this
Ooh.
is what it looks like, and it's delicious.
Mm. That sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it smells like honey, cherry, and hops.
Sounds about right. Yeah. So I guess it's similar in that this is like mixing various things. It also involves hops and fruit. Um, but I'm keeping it stone and keeping it hazy and keeping it IPA, but it's no longer imperial. They're Tangerine Express, which includes tangerine and pineapple. So
Tangerine
apparently
in
it's like
chief. That's what we
like
have.
yeah. Don't make me hate this beer, please.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, probably with the greatest connection.
No, but it's a nice. I guess about as like light and refreshing as a stone IPA can possibly get. So, mm.
I haven't
Mhm.
had Stone stuff in a long time.
Yeah, this was their like their IPA like variety case. Like it was at Kroger for like $19, which is like
Damn.
stupid cheap for a stone case. But yeah,
So that's 24 beers?
12.
12.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's like
Yeah, because
$2
most
off a six pack.
yeah, because like most of their six packs are like at least 11 or 12 just on
Yeah.
their own. So, but uh, but yeah, and it's all like IPAs, and it included the Imperial that I had earlier. So yeah,
This tastes a little bit like a Luden's cough drop.
in a good way.
Yeah, did you ever have those cherry
Like,
cough drops?
oh yeah, hmm
Yeah, they were flipping candy. But yeah, like the medicinalness, the alcohol is coming across as kind of like a medicinal flavor, but not in a
no,
bad way.
no, that means it's good for you.
Yeah,
So
yeah, use
and
that
if it ta-
bleach. Get the germs out of your system.
that reminds me, you remember the show Metalocalypse on Cartoon Network's Adult Swim? Like for people who don't, it was this one of the greatest cartoons ever. But it was about this like death metal band that this is how you know it was fantasy. Like they were like the most popular band in the world, which like never happens with death metal. It only happens in a very like localized sense where like Dimmu Borgir can be like the most popular band in Norway. That makes sense, but yeah, globally not so much. But but it's like in the story, it's like they're like so popular, like they're just like stupid wealthy and like they're like yeah, just the biggest thing in the world essentially. But they're all like also just like really stupid. Part of the joke. But there was this one episode where they all got sick and like just like with colds or whatever, and they all like had no idea like what to do. Because that was also part of the story. Is like they're so like rich and everything's like done for them. They have no idea like how to actually just do stuff like go to a grocery store or anything like that. But so in the episode where they got sick, they're trying to figure out like what do we actually do, and so they got some bleach because they found out like it apparently like kills germs or whatever. And so like the lead vocalist Nathan Explosion, like literally talks like this the whole time. He's like they're looking at the bottle of bleach. He's like, should we drink this? And he's like, well, this bleach is 70% water. We're 70% water. Therefore, we are bleach. And that was just one of my favorite things in TV ever. So, uh, I
Solid
hope that was.
logic.
Mm-hmm. I hope that was worth the long trip that was for everyone else. I enjoyed it, but
For some reason, that reminded me that I asked ChatGPT if while you're talking before, I asked if nonlinear reasoning is the same as logical fallacies, and the answer was no, because something can be internally and logically consistent.
mm-hmm.
Like the Bible is, it contradicts itself, but like it's also just like that, like 1,000 years of circular logic. Like, it's self-referential and self-reverential apparently.
Oh yeah, quite. Yeah, yeah. According to ChatGPT, it's rather full of itself.
but it's not. It's like it's the thing that Rush Limbaugh used to pull. He's like, what do you say? It's not arrogant if it's true.
Yeah,
and it's like, no, it still can be.
yeah. It's like, or I think it was best said in The Big Lebowski by the lesser Lebowski. It's like, because you remember The Big Lebowski. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah. How like his friend Walter, like he was a bit of a dick, but he would like so he would say this like crazy stuff, and he'd be like, "Am I wrong? Am I wrong?" And finally, the dude just says like, "No, Walter, you're not wrong, but you are an asshole." So, yeah. That's got to be in my top 5 movies of all time. Even though I think I've only actually seen it twice, but it's just still just like
Yeah.
impacted me so much, and I still remember like half the lines in it. It's like
It's
so good.
really well put together. Like something that
Mm-hmm.
is like just artistically, internally consistent. It
Mm-hmm.
like that world. Everything in the movie was part of that world. Like there wasn't
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. They were like the
very
best.
artfully
Like,
done.
yeah, because like speaking of Walter, like in his character, I guess like in the story, like he has an ex-wife, but like this wife was Jewish, so like he converted to Judaism. So even after the divorce, like he kept like hold of like the Judaism thing, but apparently like not necessarily very well. But like he thought it was so. So at one point, it's like the dude, like what Walter was talking about, like his Jewishness and like his ex-wife. He's like, "Come on, Walter, stop living in the past." He's like, "Living in the past, like 5,000 years from Moses to Sandy Koufax. You're goddamn right. I'm living in the past." Like that to me is just like one of the most brilliant lines ever. Like just like how like the dude was talking about one thing, about accusing him of living in the past, and he immediately connected it to what they were talking about, but in a completely different way, and then expressed it so hilariously. That was just so good. Oh,
Hey, so
speaking of brilliance,
America's breaking,
what?
and it's this is just the part where things fall apart. This is the that's it's time for things to fall apart. Uh,
Mm,
that's what I'm concluding because that's what the Trump administration is doing so hard in that direction, thinking they're going in a different direction. Like they think they're saving it and rebuilding it, but they're actually destroying it. And I don't
well, yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
and I think just from hearing like Trump talk and some of his like advisors talk, they really think they can turn this around. Like crash everything, bring in private business to take things back over, without the entitlement programs and stuff, or to a lower degree, just bring in private stuff to run it.
Yeah.
And they think that like they can pull this out of like a death spin, you know. But this death
Yeah.
spin has a lot of momentum.
But part, and this is like, I don't know if this is cynical or just realistic, but at least as far as like, especially folks like Trump or Musk, like, I wonder how much, like, I would say I honestly doubt like how much they are actually interested in like actually saving America, or if their interest is in just like their own interests
No,
and just framing it as saving America. But then also like I also got to think like Trump probably has a big enough ego where like he would love to be the guy who saved America, whatever he thinks that actually means. Like I think he's more interested in the idea of being the savior of America than he is in
right.
actually saving America, if that makes
Well,
sense. But
I think
now
saving
you're like
America.
lower level Republicans, even like in government. I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm sure a lot of them think they are
Yeah,
doing what is actually best. Like, but yeah.
I think the guys at the top, framing it as saving America is how they're selling it. Um, because in their minds they are, uh, they're saving it from mediocrity, or they're saving it from being something they don't want. And what they're really trying to pull off is a second American Revolution, um, a bureaucratic one, kind
Mm,
of an internal authoritarian takeover, a bloodless coup in a way, or a bloodless
hmm.
revolution. And one of them even said that it will remain bloodless if the left allows it.
Yeah.
So there's been a guy, Cliff Cash. I don't think that's his name. Comedian guy who's also become an activist, and then he
Mm,
has said that um, no, we don't allow it.
hmm. Word.
Uh, so they think they can tear it down and rebuild it in their image, right? But I think they're underestimating. Like we're heading in a direction where like it just continues to crumble, and stopping it will take years and not be profitable. Like that's the problem. Like business
Yeah.
won't save
Right.
it because no one will have
Mm-hmm.
enough money for it to be profitable. And like the dollar won't be the reserve currency anymore at that point for the world, which then means that's like what the value of our dollar is pegged to. Really, is just that it's a
Mm-hmm.
reserve currency and it has value outside of the United States. Um, so if it gets lost as the world reserve currency at the same time that all these other things are happening, then and at the same time that the EU is talking about no longer allowing U.S. products in the EU
Mm.
because we're seen as a contagion, and so
Fair enough.
which we're acting like, and so they're like for our safety financially, economically, we
Yeah.
can't have ties to you, and other groups of countries may follow suit, and like it. What they're trying to do is like crumble it to a point that they can rebuild from. They're like taking it back to the studs. Like, they're gutting a
Yeah.
house, taking it back to the studs, and then they're going to renovate. We do have a real estate king, um, and
Yep.
what they're
Also,
doing is burning
literally
the
what
house
he's
down.
wanting. Yeah. Yeah. That's also like literally what he's wanting to do to Gaza.
Yeah, yeah. And so they're instead of taking it
So,
back to the studs, they've overshot and have burnt the house down. And that's the part I don't think they realize they're doing. I don't think they're realizing how bad what they're doing will break it. Like they have a picture in mind that like America is resilient because it's like mythical and stuff.
mm-hmm.
So they've got things that are overriding facts. And this, we're gonna find out where America decides it doesn't want to be this anymore, and however long that
Mm.
takes, is how bad it gets.
Mm.
Um, but did you watch any of Cory Booker's stuff? His long speech?
Brief little snippets, or I've read things about it. I haven't really watched much of it though. No.
So what he and his colleagues were doing was sharing stories from their constituents. Like that was the
Oh.
main goal. Is he was getting inundated by stuff from constituents that they're like, you need to do more, do anything that like you can, do everything that you can, and, like take risks, like look stupid, just here's how we're hurting. We need you to do better, and so that's what he did. He didn't like drink water for like 2 days beforehand, um, so that he didn't have to pee the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he shared concerns from constituents. And I saw him say that he referred to the disabled child next door with Medicaid who is going to lose it, and their family can't, pay for important things. I forget what he said, but I'm like, holy shit, that's us. I was like, he was saying he was hitting like every category of American, like scientific researchers and
Mm-hmm.
like here's their concerns, and forcing it to be heard and entered into the record. So now, like in Congress, in the official record, our voices, our stories are in there.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Nice.
and he was giving a speech, but it was much less performative than I've seen him say anything in the past. And his
Oh.
interviews afterwards, like something broke in him in a really good way.
Uh,
Because he was
I love to
talking
see it.
to the reporters, like the Rachel Maddow and what's his nuts horn rimmed guy on CNN, um,
Yeah.
Jake Tapper maybe. He was talking to them like people, not like they were reporters. He's like, this is someone that like I like. This is someone that I've
Mm.
talked to before. We are both humans doing a people thing in this format, and that was different than I'd seen him act in the past. And he was just extremely authentic.
Nice.
He's going to be president, I think.
Ooh, interesting. Yeah,
Um,
but
I would love to see Cory Booker and AOC as his VP.
ooh, yeah, that could be interesting. Um, but like I said, so like I only know like very little like brief snippets and stuff about like his. I guess it wasn't technically a filibuster because there wasn't actually like a specific piece of legislation he was trying to block. It was just just
Right.
a long speech basically.
Which is probably
But
politically good for the
yeah,
Senate that it
but
wasn't.
my one of my favorite aspects of it was like beyond what he was like actually talking about, but just the I think poetic justice in like how he broke Strom Thurmond's record,
Oh, that was so cool. Yeah.
especially considering what Strom Thurmond set the record for was speaking like against like civil rights and like
It's like for the
desegregation
Civil
and all
Rights
that stuff.
Amendment. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just love that his record was broken by an African American. So
Yep.
that's that's
Doing something for the American people instead
yeah.
of against them.
Yeah, so that aspect of it was just beautiful. So
Yeah.
fuck you, racists. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they'll come for us
Like
online eventually.
what's that?
They'll start cracking down online eventually.
Yeah. Well, until then, but
Yeah.
yeah.
They'll data mine stuff from the past, and like I could be in trouble for saying like, dude, it's in a way it just feels like another day, but then like you hear things like the Smithsonian is ordered to remove anything not considered in line with Trump's policies.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like
Yep.
just to where? Hopefully they just put it in storage. Are they gonna have to destroy shit? Like, I mean, I'd be fine selling it back to wherever it came from or to whoever it means the most to.
Yeah. Something.
Or
Yeah.
giving it back depending what it is. I mean, if it's like really theirs, just give it back. If you're gonna have to get rid of it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's like. Yeah.
now not
I
all this
guess.
is gonna happen, but it's
Yeah.
they're trying.
Yeah. So I guess one of the ways I'm trying to like stay positive about this, but also like recognizing and kind of the reality of it. I guess in my mind, it's like it's not completely fucked yet, but I'm like in the next like set of elections, like across like the next set of midterms, and then like the next presidential election, and like all the like the House and Senate, and down to local stuff.
You're
It's like
assuming there will
okay,
be fair elections.
it's like I'm fair or not, just however they turn out. That's what I'm talking about. Is like
Okay.
but especially if by like the next presidential election, like we're electing Republicans again, then I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, at that point, okay, we're fucked.
Right.
Because it's
There's
like this is like the like
yeah.
hard right turn saying like, you guys sure you want this? Like this is like I'm sure like a lot of the stuff he's doing, I'm sure like even a lot of his supporters didn't necessarily see all this stuff coming. But there's like, okay, here's what it is. Like maybe a lot of you, okay, maybe you are naive enough, maybe you just weren't thinking he was actually going to do this shit. Okay, now like they're actually doing it. And so like the next elections are basically, are you sure? But if America keeps voting that way and they're like, yep, this is exactly what we wanted, then I think at that point we're just completely fucked.
Yeah. So while you were saying that, I was thinking about how these most recent elections that happened. Um, was it yesterday? Um, there was the Supreme Court justice in Wisconsin, which was a big test because
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Elon threw himself and money at that, and
Yeah,
it backfired.
quite not legally, apparently.
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah, and they challenged it in Wisconsin. Some lawyers tried to take it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court declined to hear it, which
yeah,
could have been awful. But what's her name? The liberal-leaning justice got in, which is a great
yeah.
sign that Musk has become toxic. Uh,
Mhm.
so that's good.
Well, yeah. I mean, so like Tesla stock has become a pretty
Yeah,
good indicator as well.
and there were a couple races in Florida where Republicans still won, but not by very much.
Mm.
Like the left made significant progress in those counties, or no, those districts. I think it was for the House.
Districts. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uh, so the question is, does that hit? Does that gain enough momentum before midterms? Because
Yeah.
midterms, if we flip seats, if we flip the majority in the House, it wouldn't take that many, or at least bring it super like razor thin, like 0 or 1 people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Because like I guess some like encouraging signs for me because I'm thinking okay like with all the stuff that like Trump and the Republicans are doing now, it's like I mean, I guess statistically this is probably happening, but I really don't see a lot of people who, before the election, were against Trump, who are now like seeing what he's doing and changing. Right, you know what? I actually do like this. I don't see that
No, that's
happening
not a
very much.
thing.
But what we are seeing is there are Republicans who are seeing like, oh, I didn't actually want this, and they're now turning on Trump. So like we are seeing people turn the other way. Like
Yeah.
even like I don't know if you saw this, but Candace Owens.
Oh yeah, she woke up. She got conscious in a little bit of ways.
Yeah, yeah. At least on the issue of like how Trump's been dealing with like the whole like Israel and Gaza thing, like
Hmm.
she's like, this is not cool. It's like these are like real people, and yeah, and so yeah, so I mean, I'm still kind of considering this situation like a broken clock kind of deal, but
Yeah.
I'm not at all seeing. Oh, this is Candace Owens like turning the corner, and now she's actually gonna not be a shitty human being. But like that doesn't seem to be fully happening. But like in this case, give her props like that she actually is willing to say like, yeah, I'm going to oppose Trump on this. Like, cool, please do. But yeah, but just the fact that like even people like her are willing to like speak out against him, even if it's on like just like one or two specific issues, but like it's something. So like I said, that's what's giving me encouragement. It's like post election, like the only like flipping that we're seeing is people flipping away from Trump. So hopefully it's like if like enough of that keeps happening, it'll
Yeah.
create some
There's
momentum.
a race
If
there too, because
Mhm.
there. What I'm noticing with my mom is it's playing out like a deconstruction, but it's not a cult. It's not a cult. Uh,
Right.
like waking up to
Yeah.
pieces at a time, but still thinking that like, well, I don't like what he's doing here, but I agree with I agree with these things. Like, still, some people are
Yeah.
still comfortable with the racism of it all,
Yeah.
and buy into some of the reasoning why it's not racism. Um, But if you are explaining why something is not racist, often an indication that it is, or at least can be seen that way by someone.
Yeah. And that could be a whole other conversation. Like maybe this, like I don't know if this would actually be like a topic we want to talk about, but I will say like that's something that like again maybe it is like the neurodivergence in me. It's like only because like as I mentioned before, like I feel like there's so many times where I really don't like understand like the rules of like certain social interactions. So like there have been times where I've like wanted to express different thoughts and I have felt compelled to say now I'm not being racist by this, not because I think like what I'm expressing and I wish I had an example to like to mention with this because like otherwise this probably sounds awful without me being able to say something. But basically bottom line just me knowing okay, I know like racism, bit of a hot button issue, like in the socializing, you know, space, and it seems like there's a lot of things that like people are very like sensitive to like things like sounding racist, and so it's almost more of like my fear of because I know because it comes from me knowing in the past where I not in the whole like racism thing, but just in any other situation, there have been plenty of times where I have said something and my intent was like completely misinterpreted by other people.
Yeah.
So just knowing, oh, but this is an area where I really don't want to be misinterpreted. So if I like so for me to like use that um what's the word like hedging or basically it's using that word now I don't mean this to be racist like because for me it's really more just like just that insecurity of I really have no idea how the words I'm about to say are going to be perceived, but I just want to make sure they're not perceived this way. But then I'm told,
Yeah.
oh, but if you say that, that's basically a confession that you are being that way. It's like, oh well fuck, now I really don't understand how any of this shit works. It's like so
Okay, then I guess it
yeah.
could be. So if somebody says something and like other people are like, "Well, I was racist," like, or that sounded racist, and then you
Mhm.
say, "No, it didn't." Like, that's when.
Yeah, if you say it didn't sound racist, yeah, that's another reason. Like, I guess one of the phrases that's used a lot in this conversation is intent is irrelevant, and I think that's only partially true. I think
Yeah.
intent is irrelevant on whether or not the person hearing it is offended or took it a certain way when you said it. Like, yeah, like whether you meant it that way or not, the way the other person took it, like that's the reality of the situation. Is like they took it that way. They felt this way
Yeah,
about it.
and it
Now
could
I
be
do
like based
not
on their context, like based on their
right.
context and what they understand to be true. Like,
Hmm. Yes, but also but then with the aspect of how much I view like the value of like understanding and reconciliation within conversation, like I think intent is very relevant to like how you then view the person who said the thing, because I think
yeah,
it's important for that person who said the thing that like legit upset and offended and was harmful. I think there should be space for them to say, oh, I'm sorry, that's not what I meant. What I meant to say was this. And then for going forward, you're not just still labeling that person by your perception of what they said, but like listening to what their intent actually was. And still, like, yeah, still telling the person, okay, I hear what you intended, but also no, never say it like that again. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so that's where I am on the whole like intent is irrelevant thing. It's like yeah, I don't, yeah, so that was a whole other tangent. But speaking of tangents, so like one of the other things wanted to talk about tonight was another conversation you had with ChatGPT. But I'm wondering at this point, do we want to go get into that now, or is that something you want to maybe like save for another time?
How about I tease it a little bit now, and then I have a
Ooh,
question that
okay.
I don't know the answer to.
Okay.
It's for both of us because I didn't really think about it until earlier. So I was talking to ChatGPT, trying to figure some shit out. With all the changing stuff in the world right now, and dealing with it, and dealing with other people who are seeing it like a really different way. There, I was trying to come up with something like, how do I make sense? How do I get myself to a good place quickly? And is there anything I can do to help other people get to a better place without telling them to, or trying to make them? Or so it's like, okay, are there questions that you can ask people to that just formulating an answer has their brain thinking in a way that's helpful for whatever their next phase is towards something better. Um, so I had done that in the past. But, so what I came up with is it's something that is an adaptation. ChatGPT told me about something, and this is an adaptation of it, but this application is apparently new, which is kind of fun. So there's like six different phases that like a country goes through, that like apparently people go through, that like marriages go through. So the one phase is like grounded, and that's where the world makes sense and I know who I am. And then there's an off balance kind of thing, where something's changing and it feels uncomfortable. Then there's the searching phase. I'm not sure what I believe anymore. 5 is like a becoming phase. I'm seeing things in a new way. Retreating. This is too much. I want to go back. And then the sixth one, which is integrating, and that's where it's comfortable, where it's accurate to say that I can hold more than I used to.
Mm-hmm.
And so some people, like there's like people tend to, I think, they gravitate towards one of these categories. That's kind of their disposition. And it's like, this is like the rhythm for life. And so right now America is in for a bit we were in the grounded, the world makes sense and I know who I am. And then things started to get off balance. This is when like neocons and stuff got going, and the Rush Limbaugh of it all. And
Yeah.
that's when something's changing. It feels uncomfortable. I do not like it. It's bad.
That's a phrase I feel like I should go back to. Oh, the Rush Limbaugh of it all. It seems like that has some high utility there.
And so, like, that's kind of where the country is, right? But then you've got chunks of like categories of people who are searching. I'm not sure what I believe anymore. You got people in the other one, I'm seeing things in a new way. Some people are in the category, this is too much, I want to go back. That's what TYT, I think, is in. They were like a big leftist podcast network, and they were like, push left. And then like things got beyond where they were comfortable, and they're like, I'm uncomfortable, I want to go back. And now they're like trending to the right in like a super fucking weird way. But they say they're just being populist leftists, which is fucking weird.
Yeah.
And our country is
That
moving
sounds like
towards.
That sounds like the Joe Rogan pipeline.
So I think our country is moving towards like being able to say, I can hold more than I used to. And so like there's a lot of us in between the off balance and the integration. And some of us are in the integration category where we're like, you're like, okay, I can't do. The only healthy thing to do is to like acclimate to whatever is happening.
Yeah, can relate.
uh, so it's going to be interesting.
Yeah,
Because our country has more phases to go through.
yeah,
But it's nice to be able to like prepare like mentally,
right.
where I am and where I can expect to go as a person next.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
So
yeah. So
there's the application could be pretty useful, especially the questions to ask yourself and other people. Um,
yeah, but yeah. So this I guess document or like Chat GPT conversation you're kind of referencing here. This is something we were talking about, possibly talking about words tonight. But yeah, I feel like that could be like its own episode coming up soon.
yeah,
Like, so what was it that like start like if you could just like say like if it was just like a succinct prompt that you gave Chat GPT or like what was this document that you sent me to kind of
oh,
give
the thing I
people
sent you
an
was
idea?
it's kind of a little, it's like a guidebook on how to be human,
Mm.
which is like a super autistic thing to do.
Right, especially like not just like to have a guidebook but like get like I feel like this is something I need to get from a robot.
Yeah, yeah. No, but like it was talking to ChatGPT, having like long conversations with it about a lot of things around this topic, and so then it kind of gets in your head a little bit, and it's like, and you can kind of ask it to pull things together for you, um, and you can say like, all right, this all kind of feels like this, and it's like and then it kind of helps flesh it out for you. Um, because I liked having something, the idea of having something that had kind of like religious functionality, but was not a religion.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yep.
some kind of like greatest commandment or a slight elaboration on like a secular greatest commandment. Or,
Yeah.
but the guide is more like how to apply being human in the best way. How do you like how do I work good? How do I get other people to work good?
Yeah. That'd be nice to know.
Boiled it down
Yeah.
to super simple stuff. And
So yeah. But yeah,
yeah,
like I said, I didn't have time unfortunately today to like read through it in depth. But from me skimming it over, it's like it's a lot of really cool stuff here. So yeah, I feel so yeah. Maybe that should be something we make like a primary topic on another episode. Yeah, it's a lot of really cool stuff. But
yeah,
yeah,
it feels like a thing.
mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. All right. So here, time for hard, right? Um, so the question I was thinking earlier was if we were still conservatives, and we were, like Trump supporters, because probably would have been.
Yeah.
Uh, at what point would we have walked away?
Mm.
For me, I think it would have been something to do with something that's unconstitutional, like blatantly. I feel like that would have gotten me.
Mm.
Or there's no way to really spin it, knowing what's in the Constitution. There's no real way to spin it so that it isn't unconstitutional.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I guess that sounds like a good like principled like position to take, but I guess guess it's kind of like embarrassing to really kind of admit / realize, like, honestly, like looking back at like where I was like in my more conservative days and what it was that actually did like cause me to like start rethinking things. It was really like I had to hear like someone else, like some other voice that I like already like respected and felt like I identified with, to tell me, oh, this thing the government's doing is wrong. I mean, like one very specific example was
Yeah.
uh, Glenn Beck and how he, I guess, at least kind of to his credit, did start being like critical of the Republican Party, like as a whole. Like he would still be a fan of like some individual Republicans, but he's like, oh, the Republican Party, like they're totally not, holding to the ideals of the Constitution anymore. So yeah, it's, and
Yeah,
he
where is
considered
he
himself.
at now?
I really have no idea, and I kind of like it that way. But like this is like back at the time. This is especially like with the whole like rise of the whole like Tea Party movement that
Right,
he was
because
like totally about.
he had a hard on
But
for the Constitution constantly.
yeah, oh yeah. Well, I mean, he's a Mormon, so I think they kind of have to. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was really. And he called himself like kind of libertarian at the time, but like looking back, like, it really wasn't. But really, that's like what did it for me, was like taking someone who I already kind of decided, oh, I like this person, I like what they have to say, and then hearing them say, I don't know what I think about the Republicans anymore. It's like, oh, I don't either now. Like, so that was like, so like I said, as
Yeah.
embarrassing as it is to say, it's like, well, but if I'm honest, like that's what it's. So yeah, so I don't really feel like if I was still in that place, like now, if it really would have like just come from myself. I don't know, but or I don't know, maybe like the whole. I mean, because honestly, like the whole like after like I talked about earlier, like surviving cancer, and then how that kind of forced me to rethink things. I mean, maybe if I still was a Republican at that point, maybe I would have rethought that too. I don't know. So yeah, so unfortunately, I guess if the only real recommendation I can come up with, if you can call it that, out of this is get yourself some stage 4 cancer, and then that'll change your thinking. But
Well, yeah.
but
I mean,
don't.
you got get to a point where you have to get to a point where enough falls apart.
Yeah. But
So is America deconstructing?
ooh.
Like America's finding the point where enough has been broken.
Yeah. I mean, America may have stage 4 cancer at this point. That's
That's a very fair assessment.
so.
Like that was deep. That cut to the bone like a double-edged sword, says the
No.
Bible.
Which is interesting because I just said it like extremely glibly. So
Yeah, I know. But then it's like,
yeah.
oh, that's super applicable. I mean, we're not dead yet. It's like maybe we won't.
It's like in Princess Bride, mostly dead. Yeah. So
Yeah, we gotta get to this point where America is we're mostly dead. As in America, not as people, hopefully.
right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Like partially just like with how much I love the idea of that, but also just in the interest of how we are trying to keep episodes a little shorter. Like I don't know. I almost feel like that's a good place to end it tonight, unless you had like. I mean, I don't want to cut you off if you had more like little thoughts to say.
I think I was just gonna say that I think I would be waking up around now.
Oh yeah.
Which concerns me. Concerns me about past potential me.
Well, hey, but you have already woken up, so no need to be concerned about yourself.
I also don't like being able to relate real easily to like MAGA people who are just kind of like, this might be bad. Like just now. You're like, oh my god. Like,
Yeah, which, like I
that's
said,
when I feel
like
like,
my
welcome. This is going to be a rough transition for you.
yeah. So I guess that's my like. I guess hopefully optimistic. Like as redundant as that may be. Thought like I referenced earlier. It's like hopefully like what's happening now is like the rude awakening. You know, the shock to the system, where it's like, okay, if this doesn't wake people up, then I'm afraid nothing will. But if what we're seeing already is any indication, I mean, people are waking up to it.
Hmm.
Like we said, if anyone is flipping in either direction recently, it's been in what I would say is the right direction, you know, a positive direction, an encouraging direction. Like, so we just the fact that we're seeing that at all is encouraging. So, like I said, I think like I said, this election, I don't think doomed us unless, you know, subsequent elections show some kind of change. So it's like, yeah,
Yeah, it I think it comes down to who has the momentum. Like where it's kind of like where are we in relation to? All right, so the left is accelerating right now. The right is decelerating. But will we catch up before before we reach the finish line? You know what I
mm,
mean? Like if the underdog has their best race ever, pull from behind, but still come in second place, like they did a great job, still didn't win.
right, yeah,
um,
yeah,
but then the left continues momentum, and then pressure builds, and eventually it flips. So history does trend to the left, so we are going to continue to go to the left. Um, it's just how long is this? How long is this deceleration?
yeah. But I guess like not to maybe put a damper on that, but like it depends on scale. Like overall, like history may trend to the left, but then in individual cases, you will see things like skew hard right. Because like even like globally, if you were to like look at a lot of countries and say, okay, like yeah, there is a trend to the right, but then when you kind of drill down, you still have places like Iran who have been trending very right from like where they used to be.
They
So
have
my
pressure
my
building on the left, but
yeah
nothing will
so
change until there's enough of them.
yeah so my fear is, and this is like maybe not completely selfishly because I'm not the only American, obviously, but it's like my fear is that even if the world is generally trending left, like America on its own might still try to trend right. And in the meantime, that's gonna fucking suck if that's the case. But
Yeah, eventually
yeah,
it'll go to the left. The longer we're the longer we're moving to the right, the worse
yeah,
the transition will be back. Uh,
yeah,
and this
yeah.
this all may be the transition to that. Like, who knows how the story plays out and how we look back on it.
Right. Yeah,
But we can't trend to the right is breaking everything. We can't stay there. Uh, it's shooting itself in the foot. Like it
mm,
the right doesn't come out ahead in the end. But America doesn't like to be told what to do.
yep.
So
We also
it,
don't
it-
like things being expensive. So
right. So
mhm.
this doesn't last. We're not made for this world.
Cool. Yeah. Uh, man.
No, it gets better.
Hmm. Well, that's a good note to end on, I guess. But
Nothing lasts forever. Like this can't last forever. Like that's
yeah,
the truth. So
and neither can we. So, yay. All right. So yeah. So before you take us out, yeah, I feel like probably should have mentioned this more earlier, but yeah, if you are enjoying this, like please follow, subscribe, whatever the appropriate actions are on whatever platform you're watching us, and on all of them, please leave comments or in like for the people who maybe like we know that's like a good portion of our audience who is people who like it but don't want to publicly like it. We get it. Yeah, I'll always like feel free to DM us, whether it's like on our personal pages or on the humanity page, wherever that is, and we will try to respond. Yeah. So yeah, if you feel comfortable, obviously, please share if you think some other people may enjoy this as well. But because we enjoy people enjoying this, so
yeah, I like it when people enjoy me.
hmm hmm but at the very least, like we enjoy this, just ourselves. So I
Yep.
mean, we'll still do this regardless. Fuck all y'all. But if you were all on board, that'd be cool too. So, all right, I think that's all I got. So
May your things. I forgot it for a second. May your things and stuff be forever with your people.
all right, and we'll see you next week again at 8:30, being the new time for the next couple months at least. So all right, good night, everybody.
Bye.